Hey everyone, great to be live with you. Well, ABC investigative reporter James Gordon Meek has just been arrested for child porn charges, and I am questioning whether those charges are legitimate or whether this is retaliation. I know I'm going to get backlash for questioning the legitimacy of an atrocious charge, but the FBI raided his home very shortly after he began to expose serious dirt on our federal government. He exposed Pentagon lies, and you don't mess with the Pentagon now. So they came after him, they raided him, and they are saying that they found child porn. Well, if it was there, it was there, right? But let's listen to something that Cheryl Atkinson, former correspondent for CBS, had to say about how the Justice Department retaliated against her when she began to expose dirty dealings within the Justice Department. Here she is testifying, I believe it was last year, in front of members of Congress.
Case is one of the federal agents involved in one of the operations against me said that they intended to plant child porn in my husband's computer. This is the FBI. There's been a case that's currently in litigation, unrelated, in which an FBI agent has testified that they did that. They have done that. It was not accomplished in my case. I guess the curtain was drawn on that facet of the operation prior to them doing it. But imagine how you ever get out of that. They knew we had a young daughter at home and had allegedly conspired to do that.
Cheryl Atkinson, reporter, now independent reporter, formerly of CBS, talking about how FBI tried to plant child porn on her husband's computer after project she was actually working on exposing was Operation Fast and Furious, when the feds were actually arming the bad guys to create more crime, and she was exposing that. So the feds began to wiretap her, and that was verified. And CBS put out a report on the fact that Cheryl had been wiretapped. Well, one thing the feds were trying to do was plant child porn. So this has happened in the past. The FBI has testified that they have planted child porn in some cases. So when we see the case of James Gordon Meek, I think we just need to double check. If he indeed is some child predator, then he belongs in prison. But if you look at his resume and his track record, he has been doing astounding, tough, hard-hitting investigative journalism, exposing corruption within the highest facets of our U.S. federal government. And I'm going to go over some of the things that he's been exposing and why this all seems quite fishy. And I actually talked to an FBI agent today and got his take on this, which I think you'll find very interesting. So before we dive further into it, shout out to the sponsor of my coverage. Noble Gold Investments is pleased to let you know that gold is the best investment class of 2022. Real estate, crypto, stocks, and bonds, gold outperformed them all in 2022. So what are you waiting for? Noble Gold Investments has helped thousands of clients buy real physical gold. Open a gold IRA or silver IRA with Noble Gold Investments this month and receive a free quarter-ounce American Eagle gold coin with every qualifying IRA of $50,000. You can't go wrong with Noble Gold Investments and their thousands of 5-star reviews. If you're not ready to invest, download the Noble Gold Investment Guide. Scroll down. You can click that link in my description. For mobile users, hit that more button to get that link and easily sign up for your free gold guide so you can check into it. Remember, there's always a risk with any investment. All right, guys, check in your comments. Can you hear me okay this time? I've been having those stupid tech difficulties, but hopefully with this setup, it's gonna be better. Cheryl Atkinson was with CBS. Did I say something else? Sometimes I say the wrong thing when I'm live streaming. Okay, so let's look. Here was my thought process here. Here's the thing. The media is largely captured. I think we've noticed that. Americans who've been paying attention have noticed that the media doesn't stray from the government's narrative. And so the few journalists who do must be snuffed out. Okay? This is one guy who was exposing some atrocities involving the slaughter of American military members and the shaky dealings of the Pentagon, and showing the raw video of that happening in a very recent documentary he put out. And now it's just interesting. He was also talking on Twitter right before he got raided by the FBI. He was talking on Twitter about um, how the FBI is slacking and not really doing their job. So he's criticizing the FBI, and then the FBI rates him. So I just think, based on this man's track record, we need to really pay attention. I tweeted this out. We just need to double check, because there's reason to believe that this was a conflict of interest for our federal government. And this is not the first journalist that the Biden administration has targeted. It was interesting seeing another YouTuber talk about, this is very unusual, because normally it is conservative presidents who go out and target journalists. I was like, really? I really don't think that's true. I think it's Democrats who like to target the free press. The Democratic Party, who is pro free press, is long gone. They want to absolutely rip the First Amendment to shreds. And I really want to know whether James Gordon Meek is their latest target. It was interesting that Fox News was reporting, quote, in October, Rolling Stone's Tatiana Siegel revealed that the raid was among the first, and quite possibly the first, to be carried out on a journalist by the Biden administration. At the time, ABC News told Rolling Stone that Meek resigned very abruptly and hasn't worked for us for months, and staffers were clueless about what happened to their former colleague. Definitely wasn't the first raid on a journalist by the Biden administration. We all remember what happened to Project Veritas, right? Busting down James O'Keefe's door, busting down one of his top employees' doors in New York, supposedly tied to Biden's daughter's diary when they were doing journalism. Here's the interesting things with James Gordon Meek. Agents said that they found classified documents on his computer. That is the big new thing, isn't it? Classified documents are everywhere. But here's the thing, as a journalist, if a journalist obtains classified documents, they are doing exactly what they are supposed to do as a journalist. That's journalism. You ever heard of the Pentagon Papers? Did the whole New York Times go to jail when they published the Pentagon Papers back in the 70s? No, they didn't. Because it was the job of the New York Times to let the American people know the shaky dealings of our American government in regards to the Vietnam War back then. So if this man, James Gordon Meek, investigative journalist for ABC, had classified documents on his computer, that means someone turned them over to him. And that is the free press in action. And he was about to publish those, I'm sure. And maybe that is why he was raided. The fact that the FBI happened to find classified documents on this man's computer makes the FBI even more suspect, not him. Journalists, if they can get classified documents on their computers, they are doing their job, because it's the job of the journal of the free press, whose nickname is the Fourth Estate, to shed light on the three other estates of government. There's three branches of government: executive, judicial, and legislative. Journalists are not a branch of government, although they seem more and more like they're just part of the government, right? But journalists are supposed to be completely detached and zeroing in, being the watchdog on the government, getting those government secrets and shedding light on them for the American people. Journalists are supposed to be the friends of the American people. So journalists should have classified documents on their computers if they're doing their job. Now the FBI, they're going to raid me. Ivory, you got some classified docs? All right. So the fact he had classified documents, but so here's the thing. He was raided last April. I want to show you guys his Twitter account so you can see who we're talking about here. He was raided last April honestly, a few months after he released a bombshell report about the Pentagon, which is even more suspect of our federal government targeting him. He made the Pentagon look really bad and got nominated for an Emmy because of it. The Pentagon's got to get its retribution. So anyway, here's James Gordon Meek. He was the ABC producer. And like I said, I know a lot of you guys are like, ABC is fake news, but I keep saying it is not the low-level, hard-hitting people, such as him. I mean, I call him low-level, but he's an Emmy-winning reporter or producer or journalist. He does it all. He narrated the documentary that he dropped just last year exposing the Pentagon. So it's people hitting the ground, uncovering what's really happening, who are the good guys in the corporate media. A lot of times, not all of them, but they're trying to get the truth out. I keep saying, but it is the corporate bosses who are muzzling them, inflicting fear into them, just like they did to me. You guys probably know my story of why I left the corporate news, because I and the low-level reporters around me, we were trying to get the facts on the ground that we were seeing, and it was being, to a certain extent, the hammer's laid down. Nope, you can't expose that. And I just think it's interesting that this guy, he is from the same outlets as Amy Robach, and we all know what happened with Amy Robach, the correspondent who was trying to expose Jeffrey Epstein, but ABC wouldn't let it happen because it would cut their ties with important high-up people such as the royals. ABC cared more about its friendship with the royals than the truth about how Epstein was abusing countless women and young girls. So they covered up Epstein's dirt, and Amy Robach was furious. She was digging into this. She was hitting the ground on this. I want to know if she was working with this guy, James Gordon Meek, at all, because he was a producer on a lot of these heavy-hitting investigative pieces. I just think it's interesting that Amy Robach was finally officially fired. She just got let go, you guys, over an affair, even though she had already filed for divorce in July. But they blow this affair with her coworker up like it's some scandal. I worked in corporate news for 9 years. Everyone dates and marries each other within newsrooms. It is not criminal or wrong whatsoever. If they're two divorcees who like each other, there's nothing wrong with that. So something else is going on with Amy Robach's departure from ABC too. What is going on? Turns out I really am feeling that ABC has some real ones in its ranks, and now ABC is getting in trouble with the government. Anyway, James Gordon Meeks finds out he is going to be raided, and he abruptly leaves ABC and is never heard from. Nobody knows where he went. Although the Justice Department just this week put out a release saying that James Gordon Meek has indeed been arrested after being missing since the raid. Some thought he may have gone overseas. He's been arrested. Man arrested for transporting images of child sexual abuse. Look, if this is true, he belongs in prison, but this is very fishy. And after Cheryl Atkinson exposed how they were trying, the same Justice Department was trying to plant child porn on her husband's computer after she exposed them for their Operation Fast and Furious fiasco. I think this man's case deserves some looking into. So I don't know. I can show you his last tweet. I can show you, a little bit of this man doesn't sit in his basement and tinker around on, Snapchatting with 5-year-old girls. When you look at this man's record, it's just really hard to believe. And I'm going to tell you what my FBI agent friend had to say about how they supposedly found this child porn. But it's all very suspicious. His last tweet was media reports this last tweet, April 27th of last year, was actually made on the day of the raid. So he hasn't tweeted since he was raided, but that last tweet was shouting out the fact that I guess Ukraine has been studying Russian war tactics since 2014 in order to prepare to go to war with Russia, I guess. But all his tweets are about very heavy hitting things, and in this one he actually criticizes the FBI. This is 7 days before he was raided by the FBI. He was criticizing the FBI on Twitter, showcasing some things he had uncovered. He says, a few years ago, I was surprised to learn that only one FBI agent was still assigned to Austin Tice's case. Austin Tice is a freelance journalist who was kidnapped in Syria, I believe it was, after, while doing journalism. This journalist, American journalist, kidnapped, and FBI is just letting that be. Our federal government, oh, we lost journalists, too bad, so sad, we don't care. So he's calling out how, yeah, they only had one FBI agent on his kidnapping case. He's still kidnapped, I guess. And the guy was chasing old dead-end leads. The agent had carried a bureau shield for less time than Austin had been missing in Syria. So, just had some little new kid from the FBI on that case acting like they were doing something for him, but they weren't. Okay, let's look at what James Gordon Meek revealed about the Pentagon shortly before he was raided. So here's Deadline is covering ABC News' new documentary, 3212 Unredacted. It counters the Pentagon's narrative of deadly ambush on special forces anti-terror operations in Africa. So Deadline, I think this article was released on the day that the documentary was released, 2021, and then about 5 months later, he's raided. Not only does he highlight the fact that the Pentagon was lying about what they were doing overseas, he was also in the middle of writing a book, you guys, with a retired Green Beret. This man knew a lot of Special Forces Green Beret military members. These are the most noble members of the military. He knew a lot of them, and they were beginning to divulge the truth about how dirty our government can be. He was in the middle of writing a book co-authoring with a Green Beret in regards to the pullout from Afghanistan, that absolute fiasco. By the way, another one of his final tweets before he was raided was in regards to the fiasco pullout from Afghanistan. So he was calling out the government, and he gets raided. I bet the Biden administration did not want that book out about what really went down with the fiasco pullout from Afghanistan. So all of these things cause us to say, hold up, are these child porn charges really legit, or what's really going on with you raiding a journalist, feds? From the article. So it says here that the families of these dead. So basically, James talks about how his spidey senses were alerted on this incident that happened in the nation of Niger in Africa in regards to a U.S. military operation gone wrong. Let me just read it here. When ABC News producer and investigative reporter James Gordon Meek first heard about the deadly terrorist ambush of a U.S. Special Forces team in Niger on October 4th, 2017, he said that he and others at the network quickly were met with the Pentagon's shifting version of events. Meek is quoted by Deadline as saying, quote, "When this happened, we could not get two people to tell us the same story. We couldn't even get people to tell us whether there were 10 or 11 Americans that were ambushed or there were 50. As they pursued the story and interviewed family members of the fallen soldiers, they eventually saw a much larger project beyond breaking news updates or a more in-depth news magazine piece. Instead, they created a feature-length documentary, 3212 Unredacted, debuting on Hulu on Thursday, Veterans Day of 2021. And here's what he exposed. So talking about the family's doubts turned into dismay after the Pentagon released a highly redacted report on the ambush that accused the team of going on a rogue mission to capture and kill an ISIS sub-commander. But then the documentary, however, showed that the leader of the Green Beret unit, Captain Michael Perozeni, actually pushed back when the unit on a mission with tribal leaders was instead directed to go after the ISIS leaders. So the Pentagon is saying, oh, yeah, our team on the ground went rogue, when really the team on the ground was saying, I don't think this is a good idea. But the Pentagon forced them to do it. So they complied. They didn't go rogue. They complied with a suicide mission. And this man just exposed that. Yes, a lot of ABC News is fake news, but sometimes they get some things right. And this was one of the things they got right. They exposed the feds. They exposed the Pentagon. You can't expose the Pentagon and not get retaliation, right? Why is James Gordon Meek sitting in federal jail right now? Let's look at the little preview for the documentary he put out just shortly before being raided by the FBI.
I was sitting here watching TV and somebody knocked on the door. It was a captain and a master sergeant. They were in dress blues, and I knew. I just said, no, no, no.
At that point, it's shock. I don't really even remember reaction.
All I can say is no. No.
October 6, 2017 was the day I think I went insane.
We asked, why did these 4 men lose their lives? And no one would give us an answer.
The autopsy report was where it really started clicking that something didn't add up.
What they were being told and what we were being told were 2 different things.
Because they know that mission went horribly wrong. And it was going to be a lot of fingers to point and to blame.
They spent months and months and months trying to formulate a damn story that they thought would protect their ass.
The team inaccurately portrayed the first of 3 total missions on 3 and 4 October.
It's all about the club. It's all about circling the wagons around the senior leaders.
The Army let me down. They let my son down. And then they lied about it.
Look at this. The Pentagon's betrayal. That is part of the headline, or that's part of the name of this documentary, is the Pentagon's betrayal. And it's just interesting, this glaring mainstream media report. The mainstream media is not allowed to criticize the Pentagon, or there will be repercussions. And I think we saw a repercussion when 5 months later he is raided by the FBI. So I talked to my new friend who is an FBI whistleblower, Kyle Seraphin. I asked him about this. Hey, do you know, in the FBI, do you know anything about FBI agents planting child porn, or what's really going on? I just want to double check because of what this journalist was exposing. I just think it's suspicious that he was raided. So what do you know from the FBI end? And Kyle told me today, he said that his buddies were a part of the SWAT team that did the hit on James Gordon Meek's home. They were briefed on the case, and essentially they got a tip from Dropbox Incorporated that there were some tagged images that were in his Dropbox. And that is what launched the SWAT raid. That's the FBI narrative. Now, Kyle says that he's been working, he understands that James Gordon Meek has been working in counterintelligence, counterterrorism, national security spaces. He's friends with these Green Berets, working closely with the Green Berets, and has done the overseas work. There is zero chance that this guy doesn't have a high level of intelligence. This is a very smart news producer and reporter. And that it wouldn't, just for someone, Kyle's basically saying for someone to be so dumb as to put child porn on a Dropbox, which is not encrypted or anything, like, you have to be really low level intelligence in order to do something like that. So for the FBI to say that this highly intelligent, hard-hitting investigative journalist simply put child porn on a Dropbox is very fishy, is what Kyle was saying from he and his colleagues' expert experience. He said, because he talked to his friend who's in the FBI and said that the only people that they catch with child porn on Dropbox are either legitimately diagnosably mentally retarded, or they are so technologically disinclined that they don't even understand what it is that they're looking at or how they're using it. And obviously that's not James Gordon. He's not that type of person. So was this planted on his Dropbox? Because I would imagine it's pretty easy for the FBI to hack into someone's Dropbox. Did the FBI plant this evidence on his Dropbox and then say, hey, we got a tip from Dropbox, we got to look at your house? Now, apparently neighbors reported that the raid of James Gordon Meek's home only took 10 minutes. The FBI knew exactly where they were going, what they were grabbing. 10 minutes in and out. Sure enough, there it is. The classified docs and the child porn on your Dropbox. So, and then they have, I mean, the indictment talks about how he was supposedly talking with children on Snapchat or what have you. Now, if this is true, he should be punished. But the circumstances in what he was working on when he got raided lead some of us to really question, and we need to double check whether this is retaliation. I keep saying, and Kyle agreed with me. Kyle from the FBI, Kyle Serapin, he said that he said the FBI's work should be checked, and he does not trust anything that they do. Coming from the inside, this is an FBI agent saying he doesn't trust what the FBI is doing. That's why he blew the whistle on them for a myriad of reasons. So the New York Post talked more about Meek's background. They said that Meek also spent 5 years investigating the suspicious 2008 death of Army Private First Class David Sharrett in Iraq. His findings allegedly helped force the Army to admit that Sharrett was killed by his own commander. Meek from ABC exposes stuff. So he has been working, and everything he covers is hard hitting. Beginning in 2011, he served as a senior counterterrorism advisor and investigator for the U.S. House Committee on Homeland Security. While with the committee, he played a role in key probes into major terrorist acts, including the Boston Marathon bombing. This is not the type of guy who spends his time in his basement fiddling around on Snapchat with 5-year-olds. He's out there in war zones, uncovering the deepest corruption of the most powerful people in the world. We need to double check. We need to double check what really happened to James Gordon Meek. We need to double check what was really on his computer. Are there any noble, good hackers out there who can hack in and see what really happened? Who can hack in and double check whether the FBI hacked into him first? That's what needs to happen. We need an ethical hacker or a noble hacker to come in and get to the bottom of whether James Gordon Meek is innocent, because it's incidents like this that are killing the last of the real journalism out there. Journalists see what happened to him, and they know that there's repercussions for highlighting what's happening with the corruption in our government. And so fewer, it takes more and more courage to call out the corruption in our government when we see people getting taken down left and right. So I think we should just double check. I just wanted to highlight the questions I have in that case, because I know a lot of conservatives are really lockstep, like protect the children, protect it, and I'm all about protecting the children too. So it was like when they saw that this guy got arrested for supposedly maybe chatting with children online, whatever, conservatives jumped all over this, like, oh, he's evil. And I was like, hold up. What was this guy doing leading up to this? Exposing the corruption of the Biden administration. He was writing a book about the atrocities in the pullout of Afghanistan. Let's double check whether this guy is actually a good guy. For the feds to, charge and convict someone of child porn when they're not doing child porn, that is like the most wicked, evil thing. And Kyle from the FBI, who I just cited, he really believes the FBI needs to be dismantled. And I'm saying, if they're stooping to such an evil low of falsely accusing people of child porn, then they probably should be dismantled. What an atrocity. Meanwhile, the real child pornographers are still out there. Crazy. Just wanted to, drop this information with you guys and honor the good work that this man has done, and ask some questions about what's really going on, because we've been seeing a lot of dirty dealings with the FBI. So come to your own conclusion. Thank you guys so much for chiming in on the live chat today. And we will see you guys tomorrow. We are going to be doing truth bombs with one of the latest news anchors to ditch the corporate news. She's going to join Truth Bombs tomorrow on my YouTube, 5 p.m. Central live. Can't wait for you guys to hear from this woman. We are going to talk about what the heck's going on in the news industry, maybe give advice for the young up-and-comers on, like, what should you do if you want to contribute to journalism and you're getting into the corporate news, because she and I both come from the corporate news. So it'll be an interesting conversation. Hope you guys tune in then. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, please comment, because my algorithm is whacked out. My views are low. Help me out, guys. I'm trying to spread some truth and help people think for themselves. All right. See you guys tomorrow.